Hey guys, this is Jason with Photified, and today we're going to talk about my new changes and flashes. I'm still staying with Godox, but I've upgraded my system. And the big reason why is because of the trigger system. So let's talk about the old flash really quick. I'm going to go into some settings, but this isn't really a review. It's just my opinion and why I changed to these systems, these newer upgraded systems from Godox. So here's my trusty TT850. It's a rebranded Godox flash. Let's just call this this is the 850 and this is the 860. Okay, this is the 862. So the thing different between these two systems and this is that we have the trigger is now built into it. Okay, and that these have TTL. And then they can also be a slave. It's all there for us. They still use the same battery pack. The recycle times are just as quick, and the build quality is, I feel, the same. So let's go ahead and turn these on. And we'll talk about this trigger here in a sec and why I have it here. Okay, so right now I have this as a trigger, okay? And I would primarily always have this, if it's on top of my flash, it's always gonna be my trigger and my fill flash. If I'm not using the fill flash, it's gonna be triggering another flash, okay? And this is in slave mode. This would be the other flash that it would be triggering, okay? And then this is the older system. The recycle times are quite the same. So if we go over here, and we go to, let's turn up the power on this, and we'll go to, we'll go to full mode, or full power, sorry. We'll hit set, and the recycle time should be about the same. Do it one more time. Okay, and the recycle times are the same. There's no difference here. So if we take this flash out of the equation, and by the way, the older system, I glued this on. I've had these fall off. These flashes have retired. They are now staying in my studio, and I use them for my studio setup because the manual is really what I use in the studio anyways. All right, so let's talk about these guys. All right, let's talk about some issues first. If they're too close to each other, they're not going to fire. This one will not communicate with this one. So if they're close, this one just went off, but this one didn't. And this one's a slave. But if I pull it away from it, now it works. Okay? So just remember they need be about 10 inches away from each other to communicate. All right? So we're going to separate these apart just a little bit so we can talk, so they can talk to each other. All right? Now, I upgraded the firmware in both of these. They have the latest firmware from Godox's website. Adorama has the older firmware, so I just go to Godox and get the firmware and upgrade the firmware that way. This is a Godox trigger. They're the same flash, same guts, same software. They're borrowing everything. Adorama is just rebranding it, okay? So that was really easy. I noticed like some people had issues with the firmware and their flashes wouldn't connect to the computer. And the problem is if you do not have the right USB cable that has all the connectors that it needs, these flashes are not going to talk to your computer and the driver is not going to react. I had to get another USB cable, fix the issue. Okay. So that's one. Let me see, what other faults do these have? They really just don't. They really don't have any faults other than the menu system or the mode system. I have to hit the button 4 times in order to get to slave, and 3 times to get to the master mode where this is a trigger and controlling this. Okay, so when you get this flash, you'll initially be in TTL with no, it's not being a radio trigger. It's just basically a standard flash if it was on your camera with TTL. Okay, and then if you hit your mode button, you'd hit manual, hit it again, you go to multi, and then back to TTL. Okay. So what it did there is it dumped, and that's really interesting because I have something to talk about. That it doesn't do that when you're using two photographers. I'll explain here in a bit. But we'll go in, and so we have optical. I think optical should be left out of these flashes. It's just useless to have in these systems because most of the time you're going to use the radio anyways, as optical can be it can just be issues with it, especially in daylight. You have to have the right lighting conditions. It's just old technology. And the wireless systems in here, the radio trigger is just great, and I've never really had an issue with it. So, you know, you have to skip through those in order to get to where you want to go, which kind of sucks. I wish you could just basically turn off optical mode in these so you don't have to use those. So, we can also hit sync and go into hypersync mode, and this flash will automatically go into hypersync mode for you. So, let's say you're shooting at 1/50th of a second. For some awful reason, you're trying to do that and create some movement or whatnot. The hypersync will not be turned on. But once you go past your sync speed, let's say to 4,000ths or 2,000ths of a second, it'll tell this flash to automatically be in hypersync. No buttons to have to touch other than turning it on the master flash, and you're set. You're ready to go. It's a beautiful system. It works great. You can go into custom functions and change some settings like sleep and whether you want the beep sound and so forth and so on. I'm not going to get into that here as there's other videos online talking about that. I just want to talk about the benefits of why I use this system now. Okay, so those are the two flaws. They can't communicate, and the menu system having to go past the optical menus. So those are the two things. The build quality is quite the same, I notice, but my love of this system is that I have 4 cameras. I bought 6 of these. 2 will be on some stands during the ceremony and during the reception. Sometimes the ceremony just depends, but definitely during the reception. I use MagMod systems with these, and so I would use like a sphere off-camera flash system with like a mag sphere on a stand somewhere, okay? And what's really cool is that me and my wife can both be in TTL. Okay, the TTL on these is great. The exposures are great. I didn't have an issue. I've tested all the flashes together, and everything worked great. I'm really, really stoked about it. Okay. But the cool thing is we can both be in master mode. And I could say, let's say I'm going to be in TTL and she's going to be in manual. Okay. If she takes a picture and I take a picture, usually the older systems would have to dump before doing it. So the exposure would be incorrect for the settings of the camera A, for instance, and then camera B and so forth. They would overlap each other. Okay. So this system doesn't do that, which is really great. As a wedding photographer, having something like that is wonderful because me and Sid would fight with that. It'd be just like, okay, you take a shot, and then wait, and then I take a shot, wait, you take a shot. But now it doesn't matter for us anymore. So these new tools are saving us time. The TTL function I will use because it's reliable. It's a reliable TTL. I really do like it. It's pretty consistent. I haven't had too many issues. I have had a couple like weird overexposures, but I think that was because the radio trigger had an issue because I was on channel 1. Maybe I should have been on channel 3. I had some interference somewhere. Okay. Now, but the reliability is pretty good. Now, let's talk about this and why I have it then. Well, back in the day, I would have to take the 850, put it on here, and then put this on my camera, okay? And then this would control my other flashes, my other TT850s, okay? And and that's what I would have to deal with because I needed the trigger system in here. But now the trigger system in here is built into these. So why do I have this? Well, what if I want to use one of these, not have it on my camera, and I want something light on my camera that's not heavy, and I want to use the bigger flash as well, or I'm just using the bigger Explorer 600 that I also have. And I'll tell you about that flash as well here. Is that with this and these and the bigger flash, when I don't need a flash on camera, I have something light on my camera. So this works great. So this has the same functionality as this would have and vice versa, other than this doesn't flash. So it's a really cool system, really love it. I can't wait to use it this wedding season. I haven't really, I haven't done a wedding with them yet. I just bought them about 2 weeks ago. I also bought the AD200s, or the Evolve 200s that Adorama has. They'll be in here in April 4th, I believe. That's when they'll be shipping, so I'll get them like April 9th, I hope. So anyways, guys, that's kind of my quick opinion on these flashes, and I hope this helps. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.